To precious few individuals' shock and surprise, the voice actress of gender-swapped Penguin was telling the truth when she claimed this would be an incredibly modern take on Batman. That was what I had feared. That is what most people had feared, and all the signs of the current year affliction can indeed be found in Batman Caped Crusader. As the show is wearing the bloodied, flayed skin of Batman as the thinnest veneer. It starts, of course, out with the gender-swapped Penguin, the best foot forward, Oswalda Cobblepot, who is running an underground criminal empire from her cannon boat, who nobody has deigned to investigate after multiple explosions in Gotham because Stephanie Sterling here is just too damn sexy. No, seriously. The show plays it as if she's a super attractive woman flirting with the police to keep them on side. I suppose I'll give the show credit for not merely gender-swapping the Penguin, but also making him a commentary on body positivity. Hey, it is at least less lazy than the other symptoms. Dr. Harleen Quinzel, for example, who is in no way whatsoever affiliated with the Joker, is on a personal crusade against, well, capitalism, as she kidnaps the rich people of Gotham and teach them how bad they are for having money, and how they should give away all of that money by, locking them in her basement and psychologically torturing them. Yeah, and physically on occasion. And if you thought that was a blatant reference to the creator's politics, oh boy, we are barely even getting started here. As 1940s America is of course incredibly diverse, with every color, gender and sexuality amply represented as police officers, detectives and lawyers. As Harley Quinzel, of course, is herself queer now for Detective Montoya. And who could blame her? I mean, look at those shoulders! Montoya is herself, of course, queer as well, even though physically she more resembles a square. I mean, goddamn, she makes the Batman look like a child. The only character wider than her is Bullock, which, God bless his poor little soul, by the way. As the only heteronormative character in the show, he gets verbally abused by every female he so much as looks at. Oh, I said every group was incredibly diverse, but silly me, that is not actually true. We have the notable exception of the aforementioned evil rich guys, of course. They are all white, straight, and male. Indeed, this is a bit of a recurring theme, as seen with the Gentleman Ghost, a greedy colonial noble that hates the dirty, stinking, poor peasantry and democracy. The only sympathetic character in the whole show. Joking, YouTube joking. As the show itself is a large enough joke, I figured I'd point that out so that it didn't get lost in it all. But on a more serious note, the Gentleman Ghosts episode 6, is actually probably one of the unironically best episodes in the series, as it is the very first episode. Yeah, episode 6, again, the very first episode of the season to actually focus on Batman. As the preceding 5 episodes, the main characters of the show have been Barbra Gordon, now race-swapped to be black along with her father, or Montoya, who solves the Clayface case before Batman. Indeed, the only reason Batman even shows up in the end is because he had her bugged. And just in case you're getting uncomfortable with Batman being the lead character in a Batman series, not to worry. The very next episode, we're back with the true main characters again. The magical adventures of Barbra and Montoya. As you see, there is a big group of professional assassins in town. There's a hit out on someone. Who's the target? Is it the Batman? Of course not. He's barely done anything. No. It's on Gordon, of course. The police commissioner is in danger. Or so you would reasonably assume, but wrong again. That would be far too patriarchal. The target, of course, is Barbra Gordon. You silly misogynists. You know, the main character. Oh, and I love how the episode starts out with Barbra, the defense attorney, being all, "Oh, the police are the real villains. They's the bad guys who harass the poor, guilty criminals. They're just down on their luck." But the moment that criminality affects her, she's all, "You deserve to be in Plapme like a 2-bit tart prison, sir." Progressive morality. It is good. They have double standards, for if they had not, they would have none at all. They could at least have put Barbra in a costume, you know. If you're gonna make her the main character, at least pretend it's still a Batman show. But this is no more a Batman show than it is a 1940s show. The noir style is the thinnest of coats, and extends purely, singularly, solely to the visuals. We don't even get any cool-looking 1940s gadget, even. Like, when I am saying it is purely the visuals, I am not kidding. We are not even taking advantage of the possibilities of the 1940s here. I was kind of hoping Batman would have a utility belt filled to the brim with neat improvised clockwork gadgets that he would, dust for fingerprints or scan for blood trails, etc., using cutting-edge science at the time. But there is none of that. The fanciest toy he ever pulls out is a flare gun. He doesn't even have a gas mask in this one, despite being knocked out by gas twice. And just to hammer home how much this is simply the incompetence of the writers, it's not like he's not spending money on toys. There is a point where Lucius Fox points out, like, "You've got this huge bank account that I don't get to touch. What are you spending it for?" Like, wink wink, I don't know. Probably bat stuff. He even has his own personal mini submarine in the 40s. He's clearly spending enough money on this tech, but we don't get to see nearly any of it. It is such a missed opportunity. You could have had Batman be the technical magician, baffling the police by solving impossible crimes with his detective chops and tech. Incidentally, there is next to no detective work in this show, and what detective work is done by Montoya. Instead, again, Batman is reduced to an ancillary character in a show that fundamentally fails to understand either Batman or the setting, for that matter. And there's an interesting reference in episode 8, where we see what appears to be Killer Croc at the circus. He is simply one of the attractions and seems to get along with all the other circus staff. This is almost certainly a reference to episode 7 of season 2 of the animated series. Oh, maybe I am giving them too much credit here. I do believe it was also in Killer Croc's background that he was a sideshow attraction at some point, but to give the potential credit, in this episode of Batman the Animated Series, Killer Croc escapes from a prison transport, and after Batman chases him, he gets hurt and lost in the woods. He is found by an ex-circus troupe of freaks and outcasts, and they take him in as one of their own, seeing another societal outcast like themselves. They try to teach him to just be yourself, to be normal, trusting in his innate goodness, even helping him defeat Batman. But here's the thing, Killer Croc is not good, and he tries to rob the circus group and kill Batman against their wishes. And when one of the children asks, like, "Why did you do this, Croc? We just wanted you to be yourself," he answers, "Well, I guess that was what I was doing." Killer Croc is not misunderstood. He is not a tragic victim of society, he is a brutal murderer. And even if he was just a normal man, spared from his crocodilian affliction, he would, in all due likelihood, still be a murderer. But this harkens back to a point I made in the Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne video. In the trial episode, it's shown that Gotham's criminals are just that, criminals. But today, as I had predicted, we can't do that. Perhaps I am reading too much into such a brief cameo appearance, but I think this speaks to the deeper malaise that makes Batman a side character in his own show, as all the villains in Caped Crusader can be divided quite neatly into two camps. Irredeemably evil people who you can do anything to and have it be justified, that being the evil rich men that Harley locked up and tortured and then had them give away their entire fortunes, ruining their lives and committing suicide, and Harleen is still presented as a sympathetic character, and the gentleman ghost, whose spirit is trapped into a bottle when Batman banishes him, and when he hands him over to a creepy voodoo dude who gave Batman the spells required to capture the gentleman ghosts, Batman asks, "What's going to happen to him?" And the creepy guy simply says, "You don't want to know," and Batman just simply accepts that and walks away. Or the other group are the villains who are justified, or at least presented as morally grey. For example, Nocturna, or Natalia Knight. She drains several children of their life essence, leaving them dangerously close to death, and she kills her own brother. But she's female, and so Batman must protect her even as the little kid who saves Batman's life, because of course he did. And that's hardly the only time Batman is rescued, by the way, as we certainly can't have a competent male hero, but anyways, even the kid goes, "You can absolutely let her burn, she's a monster." And hey, the kid is right. She lives off the life force of others, but even so, she is more worthy of mercy, apparently, than the gentleman ghost was, whose worst crime at the end of the day was stealing. Not quite as bad as murder, you would think. Or to put it more bluntly, all the really bad dudes are the straight white males. All the justifiable villains like Harleen targeting aforementioned rich men are women. And of course, Batman is dragged into this too, with the show implying that it was Batman's actions that pushed Dent over the edge and made him into Two-Face. And of course, again, it is Barbara Gordon who redeems Two-Face and has him, in essence, sacrifice his life to save hers, thus giving him that redemption. It is Barbara Gordon that does this, not Batman. Coincidentally, by the way, this is the second episode that focuses mainly on Batman, as he gets the blame for Harvey Dent going loco. As we wouldn't want to besmirch the reputation of our main characters, Barbra and Montoya. And oy vey, girl bosses ahoy! So, just as Batman apparently broke Dent, Barbara then immediately goes to try and help him, to fix what that dumb old Batman ruined, and naturally Barbra and Montoya are near perfect. Montoya is a better detective than Batman, to the point again where Batman needs to bug her to break open the Clayface case, and Barbara not only has a superior moral compass, but also saves Batman's life when he is trapped by Harleen. And when Harvey is kidnapped by the crooked cops, it is Barbara, of course, who finds and saves him, not Batman. There is even a particularly mind-boggling scene where a female hostage about to be executed via swinging blade chews Clayface out for not being sincere enough in his villainy. She's about to be ritualistically disemboweled, and she shouts at the dude who's about to do it, calling his penis small. This is after he's murdered like 3 people and admitted it to her, by the way. As you can't have a weak female of character, of course. And the character is then saved by Montoya because Batman couldn't be bothered, I guess, to cut her loose by tossing a couple of batarangs to free her. In fact, come to think of it, on the whole Gadget's point again, I think he tosses a grand total of, 2, maybe 3 batarangs the entire season. In fact, Batman fires more gunshots this season than he tosses batarangs. And it practically goes without saying now, but there is even less, if that is even possible, Bruce Wayne in this show than there is Batman. The only hint of the Gotham philanthropist is the construction of the Gotham Gardens, a suburban-style upper-class-looking community village. The rest of the time, he's just a rich asshole, offering bribes to police officers and punching random people. I mean, hey, at least he plays off the bribe part later on as going, this police officer Montoya didn't take a bribe I offered her during a recorded interview inside of the police station. Clearly, this Detective Montoya is a fantastic person with an impeccable moral compass, clearly deserving to replace me as the main character. And hey, had the show been appropriately titled The Adventures of Barbara Gordon and Montoya Saving the World from Patriarchy, then at least I could say it achieved what it set out to do. But it is named Batman Caped Crusader. And there's just not a lot of Batman to be found here. Not a whole lot of crusading either, as Batman achieves, well, nothing really in the fight against crime in Gotham, mostly due to the writer's active malice against him. For example, he takes down Stephanie Sterling. And you would think this would be a massive achievement, right? He takes down the city's second biggest gangster. But no, there's no celebration, not at all. Instead, Batman looks at the map of the city and goes, "Look, Alfred, by taking down this criminal, I have allowed Falcone to take over Stephanie's territories. What a stupid bat I am." He blames himself for messing up. He even goes like, "I made a mistake today, it won't happen again." As opposed to what? What was the alternative here? Should he have allowed the criminal with the artillery cannon to escape? So the other criminal couldn't move in and, do the exact same shit as Stephanie was doing? Materially, nothing has changed as far as Gotham is concerned, and as far as Batman should be concerned, he has just reduced his primary targets from 2 to 1. How is this a mistake? Unless you view it through the lens of progressivism, I guess. Where the woman is in jail and the man, the greater evil, remains. Regardless of the fact that the woman had been bombing Gotham nightly with a fucking railway gun. But to summarize, are there any good parts at least? Is there something worth pointing out? Well, there are a couple nice noir throwback scenes, like when Batman sword fights Clayface on a movie set. That looks quite nice. The Catwoman episode was actually relatively okay. A more selfish, old-style Catwoman using a panther as a pet. That's kinda cool, but these episodes don't do much to weigh up for all of the bad. And again, Batman's part in these episodes are far too small to justify the title. And on the note of Batman as well, the new voice actor Hamish Linklater, he does okay, but he tries way too hard to be Kevin Conroy. And the simple fact is, nobody can do that. And granted here, Hamish's take on Bruce Wayne is great. His Bruce Wayne is fantastic. And had this been a my-style Batman show, focusing in on Bruce rather than Batman, he would have been an amazing pick. but it isn't, and his Batman is way too robotic. He crosses over into a territory closer to Mr. Freeze rather than the stoic voice that Batman should be putting on. The animations are nice. That's a good point. They're not standoutish, they're not amazing, but they're certainly serviceable, and the design is uninspired, to put it mildly. There are clearly design language elements here that tries to harken back to the glory days of the animated series, but it is kneecapped at every turn by the need to be a modern-day Batman show. Detective Montoya, for example, in the original show had a pretty damn nice design that made her a standout character even as just a regular beat cop. But in this one, God help me. It's like, I can only imagine the design meetings. They created her face from the original Montoya and then went, damn, too conventionally attractive. How do we fix this without making her just ugly? Make her enormous. And that was simply followed by half a dozen design meetings that can all be summarized with one word: wider. And the only real standout positive thing, in my opinion, is the music. The background soundtrack is very good, and it's by far the most noir thing in the entire damned series. But nowhere even remotely close enough to carry it. Batman Caped Crusader is exactly what we were told it would be. A modern take on Batman. A skin suit. Minimizing Batman in every conceivable way they thought they could get away with, and maximizing all the usual progressive characters. Strong women aplenty. I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it a disappointment, because if you expected a good Batman show in 2024, I don't know what you or any of us were thinking at that point. But it is certainly not worth your time, and most assuredly not worth your money. I do, however, fear that it might do relatively well. At the very least, it will do far better than The Acolyte, I'd imagine, because there is enough superficial veneer here to perhaps trick the uninitiated. The skin suit has been cut thickly enough to the point where, if you don't pay attention to the fact that there's no actual Batman in the show, you might be tricked into thinking that you're watching some sort of, at least vaguely tolerable, cop noir show. Because again, the Barbra Gordon and Montoya scenes aren't awful. It's not She-Hulk by any stretch of the imagination. It's not The Acolyte. It just isn't a Batman show. And in a world where we now actually have a piece of entertainment like X-Men 97, which for all of its flaws is an X-Men show, well, then that is more than enough for me to utterly, unilaterally reject the Caped Crusaders, Barbra and Montoya.